So today we're talking to Olivia Goodreau from the LivLyme Foundation, and she contracted Lyme disease when she was 6, and that's led to a whole series of events and experiences. And now, I mean, at some point, you founded the LivLyme Foundation and have been working ever since to spread awareness of Lyme and do a whole bunch of work in this area. And so we want to find out, that story a little bit. You've worked with Insect Shield. You guys are one of our partners. And we want to find out, what you're doing today after you give us some of that background. So welcome, Olivia, to the Insect Shield blog.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. So tell us a little bit about your experience from age 6, because this turns out to be something that's very common for people who are bitten by a tick and wind up trying to figure out what these symptoms that they get are from. I think in your case, you didn't even know that you were bitten.
Yeah, so I was bitten in between the summer of my 1st and 2nd grade year, and I did not see the tick and I did not have a bullseye rash. And then a few weeks later, I started developing symptoms similar to flu-like. I started having a tremor in my right hand. I started losing my vision. It was very hard to get out of bed. And then over the course of 18 months, I saw 51 doctors, all from Colorado, who misdiagnosed me with Wilson's disease, told me that I needed to drink more water because I was in a high altitude state, and then they later thought that I was making it up for attention. And so as a now 8-year-old, I was very hard to hear because I was in so much pain, and for them to think that I was faking everything when I couldn't see at all, it just felt really difficult, especially since you had to rely on them a lot. And then my 51st doctor did more tests and took the time to see what the other doctors had missed. Yeah. And she did a Lyme test on me, and I came back positive, and it was one of the most off the charts cases the hospital had ever seen. Wow. And so they put me on 30 days of doxycycline, said that I would be back to normal. I felt better after those 30 days, but then it started to decline again. And I knew that I needed to find a Lyme doctor or some kind of specialist who really knew what they were doing. And 3 years later, with 4 more doctors, I finally had a 54th doctor who diagnosed me with Bartonella, Babesia, POTS syndrome, relapsing fever, and an anti-1 tryptophan deficiency, all from this one tick that we never saw. And 51 doctors missed everything.
Right.
And I remember he was looking through my medical records, and at the time it's really tall. It was like the Harry Potter series to shame. And he was just going through them all, and he's like, man, they missed this and this and this, and it would have been easy if they had done this test, but they decided against it. And so that was a very tough time, especially the diagnosis process was very difficult for me.
Yeah, and you were so young at the time too. And it sounds like it was very fortunate that your parents were great advocates for you in that situation, And I know doctors often, we have this kind of old school mentality about doctors, nothing against doctors, but that they know so much that they can't be wrong,
Yeah.
And that's really hard in situations like this. So that experience that you had, that's something that you share with a lot of people, right? And that kind of inspired you to do more, because why should it take so long to get this diagnosis kind of?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. And as I was researching about other stories about Lyme disease, I had come across a story about a mom and her son, and they were living in their car so they could afford the boy's Lyme disease medication. And out of all of those stories, that one just really stuck with me. And then in the spring of 2017, I founded the LivLyme Foundation, which our two goals are to give proper funding to scientists and universities, doctors, so they can find potential cures and better treatments for Lyme disease and other tick-borne illnesses. And then also to give funding to kids that may need it, so that way they don't have to have their childhood robbed like I basically did. And hopefully I can prevent another case that was like mine. That's my goal.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously very inspiring, and you have the motivation. I mean, this is like, we're talking to others with Lyme on the blog here, and that is such a common theme, the misdiagnosis. And one of the real risks is, like, the longer you go without a proper diagnosis, the more severe or the higher the chance that you'll get those long-term symptoms, right? I mean, that's a big deal. So tell us more about how you got started with the LivLyme Foundation, and how that grew.
So I had talked to other people about organizations, and my mom actually helped my old middle school with fundraising a lot, and she was about to retire from that when one day I just went up to her and I was like, I want to start a nonprofit. And she was like, all right, here we go again. And so I did my research, and I made sure that I had good values, and I made sure one of the big things was, I was like, if there's a foundation that's already out there that's doing what I hope to do, I will just help donate to that foundation. But the thing was, I wanted to do these two things, helping kids and also helping scientists. And I had found organizations that help scientists and organizations that help kids. And none of them really did both, incorporated it together. And so I thought, hey, this can be my thing. Like, this can be kind of where I can sneak in and just find a place in that organization world. And also there's a lot of nonprofits on both coasts. And so I think it's kind of funny that I'm from Colorado in the middle of the country, and I'm just kind of like the middle ground almost.
Right.
And so I was doing my research, and I had just founded it, and we had a very small social media page. Like, I think we had like 15 followers at the time or something like that. And not even 20 minutes after we had pushed out LivLyme's website, someone donated to it, and someone also applied their child to come up for a grant. And so that really put it into perspective on how desperate people have become, in the sense that this foundation was literally 20 minutes old, like out in the public, 20, maybe 19, and already people are trying to find ways to get their child financing so that they can have a childhood. And that just inspired me more.
So that aspect, I mean, I don't think I've seen that, like the idea of giving funding to individuals just to help them get through the difficulties, and this is like a financial way of doing that. Say a little bit more about that. Like, you have a spot on your website where if people go, they can apply, right, for their kid to get help.
Yes. So we have given over 50 grants to kids from all over the US, and we have gotten grant applications over, I believe, 700 from the US, Canada, Mexico, and Australia. But right now we can only do the US, and I really hope to go international at some point. But yeah, if you go onto our foundation, every year we had this opening to where you can apply your child for a grant. And we just ask you basic questions to where, if you are a parent of that child, you should know all the answers to. Since one of the big things about our lawyers were talking about and agents were talking about was, we don't want to kind of get scammed, in the sense of someone saying, oh, well, my child has Lyme disease, but then there's no proof. We want to actually mean something. And so that's why we have a very detailed questionnaire, and we kind of let the parents tell their story. And some of them are paragraphs long, others are like 2 or 3 pages worth. And so I personally read through all of the grant applications, and it is both the best and worst part about this job is because like I cry the entire time. Like I am just a sobbing mess. And then eventually I have to choose 20 grants for that year. And that's the worst part because I feel like everybody there deserves something. It's just that I'm not big enough yet to give it to them. And so
Sure.
hopefully at one point, I hope that I can do that for everyone. And
Right.
the stories have just been incredible. And I also call the parents to announce that they have been given a grant. So I'll call them, I'll leave them voicemails. At sometimes they think that I'm like a salesperson or a robot, so they'll hang up on me. And so I have to call them again and I'll be like, hi, my name is Olivia Goodreau from the LivLyme Foundation. I'll just like say it so fast so that way I'm not hung up on again. And then sometimes I get to talk to the grant recipients, which is always fun for me. And so that's a really fun part about what I do is just connecting with people from all over the country and helping them out.
That's awesome. So what are some of the themes? I mean, you're probably getting more stories than a lot of other organizations or news, media outlets or anything like that. So what are some of the things that you hear a lot that are common to these folks?
So a majority of the times, actually, I hear that their child is not the only one with the tick-borne illness. Sometimes the parents also have tick-borne illnesses. Sometimes it's the whole family. And so they'll be talking and they'll say, hey, listen, this child, they have 2 other siblings that also have Lyme disease or Bartonella or BC or some other illness. And they'll say, out of all of my children, this person has it worse, and so I would like to give them the grant. And that's something that's really difficult because you have to choose between your kids, which no one should ever have to do that.
Right.
And I also hear generally not many people knew what Lyme disease was, or they knew very little of it before they got bitten. And I think that the lack of awareness does play a big part in all of the new patients and all of the new victims that I've been seeing is just that they were out in the woods, they were on a bike ride, they were hiking, and they didn't know. And so I think that if awareness was more present, I would be seeing less and less of those stories and hopefully less grant applications.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I have a sense that you're going to see more than less, but that's a great thing, that you have going. And yeah, the awareness. I mean, obviously, you're doing work in that area. What are the kinds of things that you think would be more beneficial in terms of making people aware?
I would generally say if there were signs at parks that said, hey, beware of ticks. If you see things at maybe Walgreens or some kind of local store that's like tick spray, tick protection, tick tweezers, things like that. Just general warnings, whether it be on social media, local area, signs, pamphlets, anything like that.
Right.
And I would hope that in the future, like national parks would also have signs to talk about ticks and say, hey, listen, if you go here, just be careful. Ticks are in the area and they're not too fun. So
No.
I think that those would be very beneficial for awareness. And then also people as well. People talking about it definitely brings a lot more awareness.
Right. I mean, Insect Shield, and I've seen this. I don't know if I mentioned, but I started here in 2020, back in March, right before COVID got rolling. And one of the things that I see a lot, because I'm searching the internet all the time and looking for things that are relevant for our business, and there are all kinds of media websites where they interview a specialist or entomologist or something, and then they kind of have a list of the things that you can do to prevent tick bites. and they're just kind of, not that robust. I mean, and one of the things is like, well, sometimes they don't even mention permethrin as a thing that you can treat your clothes with, which, I mean, I feel like if anything, more awareness and the kinds of things that you can do to prevent the bites, rather than have so much like coming in after the fact and, oh my God, the disease itself is so debilitating in many cases, and putting the effort there. So I think you guys have kind of a broad view of it, and the fact that you're helping kids is huge. Some of the other things that you do, like the TickTracker, right, is the app that you kind of innovated yourself, and so let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, sure. So 3 summers ago, I was in the Lake of the Ozarks in Missouri, and I noticed that there were 200 poppy seed ticks on my dog's legs. And so as we're trying to get all the ticks off, I had asked my mom, I was like, hey, is there a way to where we can see what kind of ticks these are, just in our area? Like, is there some kind of map or a website or app for that? And it wasn't the best time to ask her because she was freaking out about the ticks. But later, when we got the whole situation figured out, I did ask her, and we did the research, and there wasn't really a reliable source. You had the CDC maps, but those were older, and those didn't exactly show certain neighborhoods or counties, or didn't really zoom in on where exactly you were. So I had the idea, well, what if we can see ticks in real time, using geolocation? And so that's exactly what TickTracker is. It's a free global app in multiple languages that basically lets you see ticks in real time, using citizen scientists as well as public and private organizations, the Smithsonian, CDC, basically anyone that we can get that's been helping us. And so you go on, and there will be a map, and it'll show you where people have reported ticks. And it's very interesting. Since I've talked to people to where they say there's no ticks around me, no ticks in the state. I pull up TickTracker and I zoom in and I'm like, so look at your neighbor's backyard. Like, look what they posted. And it's been, I think, a very revealing thing for a lot of people, realizing thing. And TickTracker has been helping a lot of people. And this is also great for awareness, since we were talking about that earlier, because TickTracker has notifications that will say, hey, you're going into a place that has been reported of tick sightings or tick biting, so just be careful.
Yeah.
And so I would definitely recommend downloading TickTracker. I think it'll help out a lot of people.
Definitely. Yeah, I think I read something the other day where there was, I don't know, an app developer in, sort of collaboration with a scientist, etymologist or whatever. Then they were trying to come up with a game type of app that would be, sort of like you're saying, but geared more toward kids, where they could learn about ticks, while seeing all this kind of action or whatever. And I think your app has elements of that. Did I see that it has kind of a heat map feature? Is that something that you're doing?
Yes, we do have a heat map. This is just generally more helpful for visual people to show that if you're in like a red index, then you are in a place where there are a lot of ticks. And then so the colors kind of, it's almost like weather, where you kind of see it, and it's very visual for people. But I think the app that you were talking about earlier, it's called Tick Tick Boom, and my brothers are actually creating an app to help learn about ticks and tick prevention. They call it edutainment. So education and entertainment, and it's generally for kids. That's their goal.
Yeah.
They've been my biggest supporters, and they don't know me not being sick. And so that was their idea. Or it could be a different app, and maybe we'll have to compare and contrast and change notes on that.
I'll have to look it up. I don't know that they had actually worked it out, how it was supposed to go, but they were saying like kids can learn, they want to learn, like sort of like Pokemon Go or whatever, like people are into all the different kinds. So ticks are a great, area for people to learn more, because maybe that's something that a lot of people don't really realize, right? Is there's all different kinds, like so many different kinds of ticks, and some carry Lyme and others carry different diseases. So that's an area where people can really get better educated as well.
For sure.
So let's see, I've got a couple other things here. What are you guys doing today? I mean, what's your focus these days?
Our focus has generally been bringing awareness. We are getting ready for our summit, which we will be bringing top scientists, doctors, and other important figures into, I believe, since it will be online as it was last year. I'm not sure if it's going to be on Zoom or if they're going to be pre-recorded, but basically, you will be able to see all of these scientists present about what they're doing today and how things have changed and what they've been up to as well. We do have a few things in the works that we are not allowed to share yet, but I'm very excited about them. I do think that they will definitely be a game changer, especially due to recent events. And I hope that they will help a lot of people. I mean, that's generally my goal and a goal of a lot of other people suffering with Lyme disease. Is to bring help to others. And so hopefully when I am allowed to release what we are doing, it'll help.
Awesome. Well, Olivia, thank you so much for your time today. We're really glad to get a chance to check in and admire what you're doing. We're pretty honored, Insect Shield, to be your partner, and I hope we can do a lot more in the future. So let us know when that big news comes out, and we'll get on it. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.